Hello and welcome. I'm your GM in the Great Barrier, and we're broadcasting from the center of your entertainment galaxy. We are back with Star Trek Adventures Aegis. And last we left off, the away team has arrived on the moon of a distant planet in the Fomalhaut system. The away team, such as we have it here, Colonel Sharp, Lieutenant Commander Patel, the science officer, Dr. Lambert, the ship's medical officer, their Vulcan guide, Saral, scientists from the Lily, a small exploratory ship based out of Alpha Centauri, and it was Second Lieutenant Mora, one of the supporting officers from the Mako segment of the crew. They have all set down on this planet in search of further clues, something relating to an ancient star map of sorts that's been discovered and that has stirred up the local powers, including the warring Vulcans and Andorians. In the midst of Fomalhaut, you had landed and discovered essentially some of the natives. You wound up wrestling with some of their livestock, what appeared to be giant scorpions, and then after that encounter, you met one of the sentients of the world who identified himself as Hlazdi, the figure depicted in the with the green token. You arrived in basically a small underground village. The species seems to, although capable of dwelling on the surface, appears mostly to have settled underground. In the process, you basically learned that they were visited some time ago by people from beyond their own planet. They're not actually as taken aback by aliens because they were apparently saved by them some years ago. But they've not been able to access that due to the arrival of the most recent visitors, a particularly militarist or at least authoritarian faction. I've asked your help in terms of finding some way to weaken them. In exchange, you're being guided to what they refer to as the place of record, and coincidentally where the military base has been established by this autocratic General Kragan. The place of record supposedly holds the last remnants of that alien's visit, potentially a star map similar to the one the scientists that are with you had found in their own previous travels. The away team has been climbing further and further and has gone from the village site through the caves, and we're just going to pick up with them. We join them in a largely darkened underground sort of cliff face. The away team together is steadily reaching out, one handhold after another, such that they can find them. In some cases, Plastes has been making some along the way, although there's been a point of guiding each of them. It's fairly arduous, but the away team had the spelunking equipment necessary in order to traverse this environment, so you are not quite as bad off as you would have been otherwise. It's certainly making it easier on those of you that maybe don't do much more than the occasional primary haul. I think that we will just go on ahead to a point where, Colonel, I would presume you would at least, accepting Hlastes, who is guiding you through this, you would very likely have been at the lead of this climbing column.
Yeah, I'd be the lead. Mora's in the rear.
I'm tailing Charlie.
You're at a point where you see just ahead of you Hlastes is managing to pull himself into a recessed corner of the, or like a recessed portion of the cliff ahead, possibly the opening to some sort of other cavern or passage. As his foot kind of rounds the last bit of the corner as he finishes pulling himself over, you reach out for what you believe to be that next handhold. I'm just going to ask you, give me one quick fitness and security roll, difficulty 2, please.
Fun. You allowed it before, but space-based navigation. was that for something different? I was navigating the freaking thing, but would it apply here?
I don't think so in this case.
Fair enough. Fitness and security, you said?
That would be correct. 2 successes. You find that as you're trying to make that initial grasp, you give it a test grab, and you find that the area you're reaching for is actually a bit loose or a bit gravelly. So you slightly adjust your hold until you find something more stable, and with that, and one great sort of lift, really squeezing those lats in, you pull yourself up and find yourself approaching a path. Before you, an arm is reaching down. Plasdes is extending it out to take your hand.
Yeah, I'll take it.
He grunts a little as he uses his arm to help stabilize you and get you up. The remainder of the crew starts coming behind, with him offering a similar hand to each of them. The only one who actually winds up not needing that at all turns out to be Tenkayet Fen, the Aurelian, which, for those unfamiliar, is more of an avian creature. He has decided at a certain point, to hell with this climbing stuff, I'm gonna fly. And so he has taken flight and just flutters alongside, standing aside so he's not in your way, but allowing each of you to pull up members of your crew. I'm sorry if some of the path is a bit more ragged here, but I don't make this trip nearly as often anymore.
To be honest, we don't quite make these sort of physical excursions in the first place, being in a confined space, our skycraft. So we could have used the exercise. She smiles.
You say this as, Lambeth, Sloan, and then probably Dr. Natala have already come up at this point. Patel, you would be probably the next one to come up in the climb. Saral would probably come next in the order, and it would cap off with Mora. So, if any of you want to say anything as you come to your footing, then by all means.
Are we all making rolls, or?
No, I will not force any rolls here. This is more just describing as your character comes up. If there's
Well, sarcastically, that was entertaining.
No worse than some of the more exotic mountains.
True.
Back home.
I suppose your worlds beyond are gentler places where you can truly climb and enjoy the outside.
Our sun is much more. Our sun in Soul System is much more forgiving. Give it some time, some generations, and I am sure your own world will flourish and be similar to ours, if not more beautiful.
There was a time when it had, he said as he turns away and starts proceeding down the path. At this point, he's unslinging the primitive ballistic weapon that he has rigged, or rather getting it off from his shoulder strap and setting it to more of an alert carry. Thousands of years ago, this world was supposedly more like that. Harsh in some ways, but still livable beyond. It was not until the visitor came and told us that there was some of that impending cataclysm that they would no longer be able to protect us against. That was the day that we changed our relationship with the outside.
She nods. How many generations ago was that?
Thousands and thousands of years. I mean, honestly, I do not properly know. That is more for those who keep track of the records. It honestly became a matter of something we no longer regarded, or it was no longer important. We were simply content to exist here for a long time and live in the sort of harmony that would allow our people to survive, to build, sustain what was left of the culture.
Even if I've come from somewhere else, far more gentler. You've made a beautiful home as it is. I certainly was in awe about the level of architecture and skill that has come with so much of your ancestors and your own progress for such locales.
He'll pause for a moment, then check his weapon and say, I think our best achievements are behind us. Minds like Kragan are at work now, and he'll look back to you. They only see what can be made so as to destroy. I hope you can stop these other visitors, so at least my people might have a chance to preserve themselves, if not drive back his tide. Come, we must make our way to his base.
She just nods. Lead the way.
So yeah.
How far up the like we went down and we went back up. So how close are we to a surface? Can I feel that? Insight that a little bit?
I would say that such that any of you have been glancing at tricorders, the paths that you've taken at this point probably indicate that you are going deeper into into the mountainous area. Like the caves are somewhat traversing that. So the elevation might have gone up very slightly relative to where you were when you were back in the cave settlement, but you are further from the surface at this point because of how deep into the mountains you are. That being said, it would be hard to get a precise read here because of the interfering materials, or at least anything relative to the outside. You might be able to actually get some decent reads within the tunnels at a certain range, depending on how much is cleared out. Alasdes will guide your group around an increasingly winding and at points much more confined sort of spaces. At a certain point, he will have to hunch down a little bit so as not to knock into some of the walls or some bits of outcroppings here. It's going to get like seriously winding and at times uncomfortable. At the very end of this path, after some minutes trying to navigate an increasing set of twists and turns, he's going to get into roughly, I'd say, a Jeffries tube sized crawl space. And he'll be like just within sight. It'll twist and turn a bit, mostly like slight deviations to the left or right, but mostly stay on a straight path so you can keep an eye on him. But at the very end of that particular tunnel, he will enter a darkened portion that seems to open up at least into something slightly wider. And just wait for all of you to traverse. He will call back quietly on this approach.
She'll nod and signal behind her to, remain quiet.
Right.
Do you do it with like a Mako hand signal, or do you actually like whisper it?
I do it with a Mako hand signal, but if people aren't understanding, she'll just whisper. She'll also whisper it.
You probably, if all else fails, you could very easily apply your communicator in like a very short range burst signal, if you feel you need it.
No, I'll just signal and then whisper and say, "Pass along, keep quiet."
All of you have managed to traverse the basically the crawl space equivalent. You're getting your feet brushing off just a little bit of dust, and Plasdes appears to be very gently pulling at something. There's the slightest sound of not like rock or anything, but more sliding metal. The sound of a panel being pushed aside. As he does so, light actually streams in. It's faint. It would be more like what you would expect with a city illuminated at night, but nonetheless it creeps through. You wanted his base and the place of record. We're here.
She'll just nod and then whisper, "Thank you."
Do all of you follow along with Sharp here?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Your initial view is obstructed by a series of fairly large pipes, but you are able to round your way. As you pass out of the cave, like the cavern portion here, and go through the hole in this apparently metalled wall, you find that you're on a fairly flat pathway of sorts. Uh, it appears to be like a fair-sized stone ledge, such that you can fairly comfortably walk probably 3 abreast, and you gaze out into what appears to be a grand sort of a very grand, very old-looking set of industrial buildings. It appears that this area has been much like the village. The cavern must have been like carved out to an extent in order to support something this massive, which is a testament to the power of whatever could have visited here before, but also to the architectural inclinations of the Calamese since then. You see not just all manner of buildings, which give very much the vibe of, I'd say, definitely something in an atomic era of technology, or something quote-unquote modern for 21st century eyes, maybe mid to latter 20th century at the earliest.
Pre World War III.
Yes.
Pre Third World. Probably Second Civil War.
Yep. It is an unusual synthesis of objects here. You see, for one, all the hallmarks of that type of modernity, various buildings, and like larger sort of industrial looking setups, likely factories, warehouses, although nothing that would suggest, say, any sort of chemical or combustion type production. Indeed, no sort of emissions of that type of power source to speak of. You also notice signs of, there's a great amount of surface area that's covered near the tops of these, but you notice that there are some yawning cliff sides, and that as they go down, you see signs of further lighting that suggest possibly signs of greenery or different, further infrastructure built, at some ways down. The whole area, as far as the yawning chasms go, there are probably at least 3 or 4 sort of distinct areas built into the cliff faces. Vertically, there appear to be sets of great shafts of a kind, likely elevators essentially to allow transit to and fro. There also appears to be rail systems that are suspended between these zones so as to allow for transit between. You even, I dare say, you would probably see one tram moving between one distant zone to another. And
that special effects that shows, hey, look, this isn't a tapestry, you guys. Totally not. It's actually a location. She'll just immediately camp down, hugging a wall, get as low profile as possible to not stand out too much, motioning everybody else to do so. And I'll pull out some binocs and look around, whispering to Patel, "Can you run a light scan, see how many life forms? They're all Khalees. I forgot the alien's name already.
Calamese.
Calamese. I was about to call him the Queen of Dragons. Are they all calamies, or we have other things besides us around here?
Can do. And pull out my hand scanner.
Okay. I'm going to allow you to work together on this as you pull stuff in with the binoculars, Captain, and as Patel works in his sensors. I dare say, too, even if anyone else wants to join in for the assist, then I'd be willing to give that additional option too. But for Patel, this is, of course, a reason and science. Um, Sharp, this will be insight and security.
Damn.
I'm
Oh, that
always
is.
happy to assist with a skill.
Oh, Soral's assisting? Very good. There's then a second assist that comes with this.
Oh, no, just one. It's 0. I'll just choose the first one. It's a 0.
Well, Soral
Only-
only. Go ahead.
Only one by the rules. What is it? How many assists can you do?
I am permitting one extra one in this case, or rather two, because of Soral's, well, just a unique bit of help here. But oh
Cool.
no, I shouldn't have done that because
Could you not?
I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, I'll not count it. Soral was just idly fiddling and
I
decided.
mean, I'm always happy to play a complication that has been rolled. It has been decreed.
If you so wish. Let's see here. So, first and foremost, Sharp, your own initial looks are going to be a bit inconclusive here, but I'll still allow you to ask questions.
Sure.
Patel, your own sensor reading suggests that, which within the cavern are relatively clear, I will first say. Your sensor reading suggests that there are a considerable number of calamies being supported here. I've been going back and forth on population size, and I think that with the considering relative depth and with the time that they've been here, it probably could be like in the millions. But like in terms of these upper levels, it's probably a bit narrower. Like there's some signs of more activity in like some of the factory areas, but it seems that most of like these upper levels there appear to be some nicer low density residential areas. There are more signs of heavy biocide concentrations down in the lower levels where such that you would also be detecting any signs of like any sort of toxic byproducts of what's going on. You are seeing signs of like a slightly higher level there, segmented in some areas. Basically, it seems like if one had to guess, there are some people that do not have it so well, and some of them are lumped into basically the with an unfortunate parallel to modern society, sort of a what would be like a redlined kind of area. People that are downtrodden for one reason or another. In this case, are like stuck near an area that is much less hospitable. But in terms of other species, I will say that you are not seeing much sign of that. The otherwise, let's see, just going through notes with what you got here. You are picking up some signs of EM activity kind of throughout the cavern, which would suggest some bits of technology that are a little more sophisticated than what you would expect. There is actually signs of some very near the other end of the cavern. I'll say that, like, if you're having a vantage, if your vantage point is from like where you are standing right now, if that's the area that you have come out from, you are probably picking up some interesting EM readings from over in this segment here.
Interesting. Like in what way? Is there anything I can pinpoint?
I would say, and like, I won't force a spend to obtain information, but basically, it looks as though there could be something more sophisticated technologically speaking. So that could, I mean, honestly, with the concentration you're seeing, that's enough electronics to suggest there could be like some sort of infrastructure there of some sort. Anything from like communication arrays to something you might expect to see on like more like it is almost the amount of EM that you would expect to see with like a proper spaceport of some sort, which would have activity from the port itself, smaller craft, all sort of things like that.
Interesting. Yeah, I relay that back to the captain.
How far?
Good question. Let me calibrate my hand scanner.
Yep. It's over there, which is, I'll say, a couple zones from you. Based on the sensor readings, Patel, you'd say that if you were to take if you were to get on the rail system, it is probably effectively 3 zones away from you. But I will admit the GM has no sense of scale on this particular
No
breakdown.
worries. She'll just nod. I know I really didn't get much of anything, but I guess I'll ask, how dense are the security checkpoints around here?
Good question, and if you would like to spend some of your momentum, you may obtain the information to find out.
Sure.
With that drop, you find, Sharp, that it seems as though, in terms of the concentration, like going off of what you're seeing from drones, or rather Patel's sensor scan here, you make out that at this top level, there might be some locations where there would be security checks if you were traversing what appear to be like they don't exactly, the streets that are built here don't, for the most part, appear to be designed for like modern traffic. Or this is not a force that, this isn't a design that lends itself to vehicular travel. It's much more of like a foot road sort of thing. At best, it might have accommodated carts of a sort back in the day. This place was meant to be very walkable, so long as you didn't plan on going off a cliff. That being said, there's also probably a fair amount of active security near some of what appear to be the major train stops. The one that you were looking at, rather the one nearest you, there are some biosigns in that area, but the place that you've arrived in actually appears to be less dense near the surface level. I'll go ahead and say that based on the design of buildings and such around this area, I would say that you've arrived in more of effectively a warehouse district.
All right. It's wrong, Patel. If you can find us a good route to the source of that energy.
Sloan is going to jump in. Oof, with a 19 on that other 0. That's dicey.
Cutting it close.
Yep.
Cutting it close.
She's going to say, I can tell you right now, unless we want to keep slumming it here, our best way would probably be through the rail line there. After all, not all of us could, well, even if we could all take Fenn's route there, which Fen do not even start. Oh, but why not? Because it looks like it, if I'm seeing this right, having her own pair of binoculars, looks like the people they've got down there all seem to be armed with particle rifles, and if one of them sees you, then, well, we're going to get quite a light show, and worst case, you get stunned and you fall all the way down there.
With that many particle rifles, it wouldn't be so much a stun as fricassee, she says.
No kidding. But best guess would be the rail line. We might otherwise be able to make it through the footpath, but it's going to be quite a way. So Velocity, you don't have anything faster. You must be joking. There's no way that I would go any deeper than I already have. As it is, you're on your own at this point. I will wait here if you need the way back, but
Anything we need to be aware of, Lazis, about this city? Groups besides the one you've already mentioned?
Kragan's army is the one that holds power here. Chances are they anyone else here would be largely unreachable. He has hit many a settlement before in order to bring others under his control to put them to work. He is an enslaver and a genuinely evil, ambitious man.
Well, thank you for your help, Lazis. I hope to talk to you further.
And I simply hope that you'll keep your end of the bargain.
She just gives a tight smile and nod. I'll do what I can.
And with that, he's going to hide back by where he slid the metal plate aside.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Lazis is from freaking the yokel yonder, as it were. How familiar is his rhetoric to certain other people I'm aware of back home?
I mean,
The sort of the sort of like mild xenophobic sort of, back in our the good old days sort of impression. Conservative Luddite impression.
I mean, I don't think necessarily that he's not so much of a I wouldn't say that such to the extent that you have gotten a sense of him over these past few hours you've effectively been on the planet and introduced to him. In all likelihood, he doesn't really give a sense of eschewing technology and modern civilization necessarily from his cultural context. I mean, they do still make use of some degree of technology in not maybe the easiest way. I'd say if anything, he gives you the sense of being someone who I don't know, resents kind of the current status quo.
Right.
The part of the reason that they could be on the margins is that this brutal enslaving dictator has basically marginalized and brutalized the populace all in the name of power, conquest, something of the sort.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep a very open mind, not just fall into somebody else's opinion on a situation. So I was just trying to make sure that I was fair in my impressions.
No. Well, if it helps solidify anything, there is actually as you are rolling on by, there will be a train that actually seems to pass not from one of the circulating lines, but from one of the external caverns that rolls in. Patel, your sensor scans indicate that it is heavily fortified, and that there are also some compacted cars that seem to be teeming with life signs.
Okay. Saral, Patel, find us a train route. Let's get out of here.
Is that another roll, or can we just use the data we already have?
You could make use of the map that you have constructed and discerning the precise distance and layout of the track. There does appear to be a freight line or a vehicle that is basically there is a train near one of the lines that appears to be conveying that. It is near one of the warehouses right now, and while you aren't certain precisely of the loading schedule, it is possible that you could make it there by basically a slight climb down and sneaking through some warehouses. So with that time, well, yeah, it looks as though the freight line would quite possibly head that way. You could even potentially commandeer the train if you so wish to, make the attempt. That would be. I would leave those parts of the tactics up to you there, essentially, but it is on a line that could take it to the main zone, or your destination, basically.
Well, I would propose this to the captain.
All right. Let's quietly and slowly.
All right. And so as you begin your furtive advance into the base, we are going to close that scene for a moment and rejoin the crew of the Aegis. At present, let's see. Okay, moving you to the bridge. Romanov, you are coming back from the bridge after a final check on engineering, and you find Shira in the captain's chair, with nothing else, with most of the senior staff away. Sharp had left her in command, and you've been both anxiously monitoring the. You've both been anxiously arriving. Damn it! Let me start one more time. You have both been anxiously monitoring the sensors, waiting for the arrival of whomever else is in the corridor with you. Ensign Stewart has been intermittently checking sensors, and as a matter of fact, Stewart, you may make a reason and science roll with a difficulty of 3 here because of the interference from the rings and the ambient interference of the system. You are assisted by the ship's sensors and sensors and science, rather.
All right. Reason and science or insight and science?
My apologies. That should be reason and science.
All right. Stellar atmospheric science.
Sure.
Ooh, that's awesome. 3.
Okay, yes, that is 3 successes. So you meet with that. The ship could also give you some momentum if somebody would care to roll for the ship's
I'll do it.
sensors plus science.
There you go.
Okay, yep, then that will give you 1 point of momentum. So let's see. Sharp, if you would care to draw that.
All right.
So you stare down the telemetry and await the latest readout. As you do that, Romanov, Shira, if you want to exchange any words, now would be the time to do it.
Okay, let's review our story. So we're just here doing a scientific thing, and you're
Scientific survey of this very interesting star system.
okay.
I'm sure Stuart can provide many interesting scientific facts about this star system.
I mean, it's actually a early star system that is in the process of actually creating other planets. It's actually pretty interesting, given the fact that the radiation here is, by and large, almost like a melting pot of stellar debris and early what? Just looking at people.
Imagine the bridge are just staring at her.
Get ready to repeat that if I need you to.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're gonna have me.
Tough.
You're gonna have me receive the call as if I'm commanding officer, right?
If they detect us, we're currently in the rings, so
No. Connolly says, yeah, at this point, yes, sir, we are hiding with the planetary rings. Hopefully that'll mask us before we decide what we have to do.
What did I'm trying to remember? Did the captain say anything about what should happen if this ship attempts to take anything planet side?
She left it up to you, just because she trusts you.
Oh dear.
But try not to cause a war.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's an error.
She trusts you, just don't try to cause a war. Is all.
Don't cause war.
I mean,
Okay.
that's what Craig has been yearning for ages, being in command.
No.
Because Shira has not turned down the AC, she is actually sweating at this point, and the don't is all smeared on her hand. She might be able to make out war on her hands.
Yeah, don't start a war. It's time to start a war. Okay, well. Yeah.
Don't Star Wars?
Star Wars? I haven't finished watching that yet.
Yes, it's okay, Connolly says. You really don't need to watch it after episode 8.
But there's another 16 movies after that.
Yeah, but they're all kind of shit.
Everybody on Twitch, to the comments!
Oh.
How dare you? Episode 13's a masterpiece.
That's fair. I refuse. I will not gatekeep here. You may all like whichever trash Star Wars you folks enjoy. That's not for me to say otherwise.
I will never forget when the clone of Luke Skywalker teamed up with the 16th son of Boba Fett.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
The Neo Mandalorian Wars.
As that's happening, her steward's console starts beeping. She goes over to the head display and says, "Sir, it appears that the vessel is now exiting the corridor and making for orbit of the Fomalhaut moon. The database has confirmed that the vessel is a Vulcan's Sirach class, a Scale 4 cruiser."
So far out of our league. Okay. What does Shira know about the?
We have done drills.
What does Shira know about the? Was it Surak class?
Yes, sir. I think more precisely pronounced Surok class for this one. It's like got a double U sort of thing.
Okay.
That is to say, 2 U's and not a W. Yeah. That is what memory alpha and beta say. And Shira, it is one that you would undoubtedly know from your tactical training. I will give you just as a matter of principle that you know that well because back in your days properly posted on Imperial Guard vessels, you trained against the ships that you might have to encounter. There were, of course, any number of the smaller patrol cruisers or like patrol vessels, something in a frigate or destroyer tonnage. There were various cruisers like the older Maymora style vessels or the more modern Dakirs, kind of the equivalents of the Karlvor and Kamari class respectively. There is a ship, however, that the Andorians have no equivalent to in terms of scale and armament. And that, unfortunately, is the Surok class. They are few and far between. They are the heaviest hitters I think that anyone has fielded at this point.
So it's basically the equivalent of them sending a Galaxy class ship.
Basically, it is. I mean, it's
for the era.
Yeah. It would be the Galaxy relative to everyone else's ship. Now, that comes with its own disadvantages in terms of, this vessel is essentially meant to be more of a tank, partly by virtue of its relative size. as with most Vulcan ships, it is meant for longer range engagements. So it's counting on being able to shoot something before it is far enough, or before it is close enough to deal damage, at least as far as Andorian weapons go.
How has the simulations against that thing with our ship gone? Poorly.
I
Got
mean,
atomized, flashed over the screen.
Mostly run away, I should think. See.
yeah. Part of the
Except so he can catch us.
no, I will say part of the advantage of like the Surocs, when attached to battle groups, typically they are practically command-style cruisers, but they were, at least before the war, more of them were also dedicated to more sort of multi-mission style roles. So if it's not necessarily directing a fleet, then it may not be as equipped personnel-wise in order to handle this, or to handle that situation, so that might at least be a slight advantage. In terms of the current circumstance, the context, if you were thinking that they are going to engage you right away, then Aegis may be in a bit of trouble, just because of the relative parity. But if you were to get in close enough, you could conceivably nullify some of their advantage in terms of combat capability while taking full advantage of the Aegis's closer range weapons. However, it is worth noting that while most joint talks and operations have been suspended, Earth and Vulcan are still nominally considered allies, or I think that the alliance may have been partially suspended as of after the events of Fallen Star, but you do have the chances are they wouldn't likely shoot an Earth ship, maybe. Not
Yes,
the right way.
I'd agree with that. There's not sure there's a logical reason for them to do that.
Can I throw in a question for Shira from the off? From her background, if there are so few of these ships, or assume there are not that many of them because it's like the biggest ship they field, are they maybe known by name? You know, like people know the Enterprise, and probably the other five Constitution classes that are around.
The Odyssey, the Yamamoto, the Galaxy.
Yeah.
No. I would say no, because the Vulcans don't necessarily use the ships in the same way. The Federation of its time would, make a point of having these flagships basically not simply go to fly the flag in certain places, but they very publicly announce usually what the vessel is doing with its time there. So the Enterprise may be making a trip so that it can facilitate a diplomatic conference or provide aid to refugees or in a medical crisis. The Federation, put less generously, they're very much about the propaganda. The Vulcans are more just regional balancing.
That is so weird, creating a dreadnought but not touting it.
Well, I mean, I tried. That's all the meta that Ral could get past causality. Before he gets killed by falling stones.
All right. Well, what are you gonna do, Captain?
Okay. Is there any indication that they've detected us yet?
Is there?
Creighton says, I'm not seeing any signs of either communications or main sensor beams activating. We probably have a few moments before they even think to look, sir.
Fine. We are just a nice Starfleet vessel doing lots of survey work. And if we look like we're hiding, well, that's because an unidentified ship has moved in. here, and Starfleet vessels are frail and all that kind of Vulcan stuff.
Okay. Let's see. They are exercising a sensor role. I don't believe we've been detected, sir. They are proceeding to orbit, and they are not making any effort to intercept us, sir.
Very well. Let's monitor what they're... Would we have to move out of the rings in order to get a scan? A proper scan?
The benefit of these rings to keeping blind of us is keeping us as blind, sir.
Yeah. Be nice to know what they're doing.
Well, as you said, and Earth is friendly with Vulcans.
When they've entered orbit, we'll move out of the rings and make our presence known with a few scans.
When you say taking us, making our presence known, or do you
Just-
want me to push us towards orbit with them, sir, or are we keeping our distance here?
We'll keep our distance, make it look like that we're scanning the area, checking that the coast is clear.
If we, I don't. I'm not into this whole sort of Cold War business. That wasn't my thing. But it's you have a harder time trying to bend the rules if there's somebody who is not in the know, sort of looking about. So it might help, as the captain wanted, if we're just innocent research ship just researching around while they're doing their illegal operation.
Legal operation. Yeah, they probably won't consider us a threat. Now, that will either work to our advantage in that they'll think that maybe they can just wait us out, and then once we're on the way, they can continue whatever they're out to do. Or it may work as a disadvantage and they consider us easy prey.
We can also make them aware that we've already notified Starfleet of our location and that they should be hearing us back for a few days or something.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Alaska, have you dropped that into any conversation you have with them?
Let's see. Amidst that process, Connolly will report back. Let's see. Looks like they've pulled into orbit. They're pulling into orbit now, Captain.
Okay.
I'll-
Exactly. Of a
they're
roughly over the position of the native.
I'd call it geosynchronous to about the region that we were looking at.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, time to pop up and make a scan. Stuart, if you could make sure we're scanning that Vulcan ship.
Nudging us out with thrusters. Connolly will likely tap.
Maybe send a hail as a warm greeting.
Do the scan, and if they pick us up, then they'll see us. If they don't pick us up on sensors, then we can say hello. Or Alaska will.
Right.
Okay, so as Connolly nudges the ship out of its hiding space, you may engage one more sensor scan. I can give you a few passive details if you so wish, or rather a few details just off the bat about it, capabilities and status. Otherwise, if there are other questions you want to include there, Steward, then you may do that as well.
Could we do like the equivalent of a scan for weakness? I know that's more of a combat thing, but
I would allow for that. Let's see. I am going to rule. It would be very difficult relative to your position. I'm going to rule that just from outside the rings, you are effectively at long range. Unless you want to. The most I could give you is medium if you want to nudge things out. Or if you want to nudge out as closely as you can. But it would still be made more difficult by that situation.
Okay. What does our advanced sensor suites give us again?
Normally, that would reduce the difficulty of sensor tasks by 1. However, because of the hostile environment with the traits of the scene are making sensor rolls so much more difficult that,
Okay.
practically speaking, you're not getting much.
We're just breaking even.
Yeah.
All right.
So who's making the roll? Sorry.
That would be you still, Steward.
All right. Science. Nope, that is not Steward. Okay. Reason and science.
Reason and science, yes.
Please spend a momentum for an extra dice.
Yes,
Yeah.
to scan for weakness, I'm going to say, let's see, I'm first rechecking the task just to make sure I remember the base difficulty. Okay, yes, that is going to be a difficulty of 4 right now. And actually, this would be control plus science for this task. And
Control plus science. All
yes,
right.
and it is assisted by the ship's sensors plus security this time.
Is the roll
I'll
easier because it's not a combat situation?
I'll spend 1 for momentum. Spend 1 momentum, and I'm also going to use my value as she just makes an overall scan, just like scan after scan after scan of just sort of everything around the ship, until we are very, very uncomfortably close. Basically, she's trying to bombard the Vulcan sensors with the proper scans before trying to hide it with the weakness scanning for weaknesses. But it's probably going to be very uncomfortably close.
Well, I'm actually going to give you some good news there, because thanks to the Overland Gamer, our own Mr. Azek Korg from the Star Trek Adventures Broken Sword campaign, you have actually been given an advantage spend, where they are particularly allowing, essentially for your effort to cover to succeed. The way they want to frame the advantage is that there is a sensor malfunction on the Vulcan ship that allows for your sensor scan to look far more innocuous than you are intending it to be. So,
okay. But anyways,
yeah.
I just want you to stop yelling at me. Okay, stop yelling at me.
Thank you, Overland Gamer.
Thank you. And let's roll. Nice. Total
Okay.
5.
See what the Aegis does. Nothing from the Aegis.
Nope. Wouldn't have been either way. But yeah, with that, Steward, you are going to get a very firm readout on this vessel. You manage to first and foremost scan through these shields, which are raised right now. The weapons do not appear to be charged, but you can discern, as a standard with Vulcan vessels, multiple particle beam bank emplacements. Such a vessel designed to engage at medium range. There also appear to be some tubes for some sort of antimatter weaponry of some sort. Not far off from the photonic torpedoes that some ships are starting to use now. Based on your analysis, you can also discern that this vessel does have exceptionally powerful sensor suites and possibly has been refitted to include additional reactors, thus improving its power generation capabilities. Otherwise, much as anyone would expect, this is a hardy ship that could take quite a pounding and is simple enough for the Vulcan teams to probably be able to manage repairs. But yes, it is effectively in a state where its defenses are up, but its weapons have not been activated. They will detect your sensor pings and immediately begin to make a turn in your general direction. So just for the visual, as you begin to come out of the ring and see their orbit near the moon.
Scanning for neutrinos, scanning for delta radiations, gamma radiations. Let's activate the subspace scanners. Let's activate. She just starts just pressing button after button after button after button.
Sir, we're being signaled by the Vulcan vessel.
Okay, Ronoff, the seat is yours.
This is Aegis. Well, those are some great scans, Miss Stewart. It's just incredible here. How are you doing?
A few moments to answer. There is a Vulcan gentleman that appears on the screen. His expression curt and stiff even by the standards of the not inconsiderable number of Vulcans you have already met. I'm Commander Selmar of the Vulcan High Command of the VSS Koteth.
Well,
Explain your presence here.
Oh, well, this is an exciting proto-system. I mean, this is scientific gold out here. We're just, surveying the system. It's pretty incredible. You're probably doing the same thing. Hey, maybe we can trade some data.
All scientific exchanges have been suspended by the decision of the United Earth government after your government expressed dislike for our presence supporting the independent aspirations of Alpha Centauri.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I forgot about it because, this place is pretty wild.
Sir, should I ignite or activate sensor protocols 26 through 45?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll look back at
slide her fingers across all the buttons.
You will see sensor scans and proceed out of the system, Captain. The situation on this star system is far more complicated, and the presence of the United Earth is not required.
Oh, well, we told Starfleet we'd survey this system. There's got to be something we can work out.
Any such agreements with regard to joint scientific exploration may be appealed through the Vulcan Embassy at such a time as your government desires to speak on the matter.
Well, we'll do that, but we'd like to continue our survey in the system as it's not either Vulcan under Vulcan Earth or anybody else's control that we know of. We came a long way to get out here.
However long the road was, getting from there to here, as you humans say, your request is denied. The system is in fact under deemed a strategic interest to the Vulcan High Command, and as such, you are advised to move within a 0.3 light-year radius. You may continue long-range scans from there.
We need you to file that through the embassy. And that's fine. We can wait right here while you do that. And if embassy clears, then, we'll be glad to comply with that. We're still all friends and, you understand the search for knowledge and diversity.
In fact, this was already approved by the Science Academy at Vulcan and has been well planned and established. While certainly there are military endeavors that are going on in the local space, I am sure the Science Academy would see the ill logic in denying us the further exploration of already established and well planned, meticulously planned explorations.
And I speak Vulcan, so I'm just gonna, give them one of those ancient Vulcan proverbs for, the importance of being in new space.
Selmar will raise an eyebrow at the use of the idiom, such that the Science Academy has developed any sort of opinions. Those are presently superseded by High Command directive. And such joint operations were not permitted at any point diplomatically prior to, even before the incident pertaining to Alpha Centauri. As such, I find your logic and story somewhat flawed. Now, if you wish to persist in this line of query, the High Command has authorized, in sensitive instances such as this, use of force as necessary. I do not wish to jeopardize our status or to otherwise avail ourselves of such means, but my directives must stand.
Boy, we're all still friends here. Okay, GM, I have a value I'd like to try to apply in this situation, which is every meal a banquet, every formation a parade, every paycheck a fortune, which means I understand the bureaucracy of, the USA, USEAP. And what I want to do is try to bring up some technical thing that's been inside our, our relationship with the Vulcans to try to make a legitimate legal claim that we can be here.
So, you are aiming to find like a very small treaty-based loophole, and would the idea be to try and create an advantage, or are you attempting to,
or create an argument that he would have a hard time getting over? Now, given that the Vulcans have been hand-holding Earth for so long, there's probably a ton of that kind of stuff. But a very legitimate one that would require a whole panel, maybe, meaning it could stand for the moment.
Let's see here. So, just to clarify, are you aiming to use this, say, to help persuade him, or are you attempting to change the narrative, basically using the Make It So application in order to, create this minor advantage that you can cite?
Whichever one achieves that goal the best, unless the other players have some feedback. Obviously, there's other people who are on the bridge as well. So,
I was trying to help by creating further loopholes of you got other departments in Vulcan who've already, you got to take up with your own bureaucracy. Like we're just here because you told us to be here.
I mean, my mind went immediately. So you have the permission from High Command to start a secondary war but not finish the first one. That's
yeah.
Well, yeah. I guess whichever one of those works best, that's the goal. Create something that he would have a hell of a time going over, and
Actually, yeah, that's actually a very good idea. Like, we're allied with the Tellarites. Do they really want to start another war?
I don't think we're allied with the Tellarites. We've only just established diplomatic relations.
I mean, depending how much you want to talk him into the ground, you could argue that if the Vulcans start war with two of the major factions in the area, how long until the Tellarites feel the oppressive might of Vulcan imperialism?
Yeah.
They might just be dragged along the ride. But it feels like a longer.
Try the bureaucratic thing.
Yeah.
First.
Try the bureaucratic one first.
Yeah.
that bureaucratic or advantage, however you want to play it.
Okay, and can I con you into insight and command to do this?
I will permit that roll, and I suppose if you want to, if you want to make this a roll, you can try to.
And I want to make this a good one, and I'm going to give it to him in Vulcan. So he thinks, what the hell? This has to be like some kind of science engineering type, How the hell, and yeah, there you go.
At present, he's presumed you are a commanding officer.
That's right, and I am not dissuading him from that. So
I will expend 1 point of threat to buy an additional dice, or a d20. You are rolling against his reason plus command.
Okay, guys, how much momentum do we want to spend on this?
Use 3. Get 2 more dice.
Get 2 extra dice. Okay, since Steward was doing also a lot of speaking, can she assist in this?
Well, I'm typing to Steward right on the the little command seat. I assume our seat does have the one where I can kind of tap on it. And the other thing I'm doing is I'm invoking every meal a banquet, every formation a parade, every paycheck a fortune.
So since you're rolling, since this is a roll off, I would allow you to treat what you are doing as an automatic critical success here.
Okay, so I'm spending that and rolling 4 dice.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you have any
traits?
Because
I am trying to stop a Vulcan military commander.
Do you have any traits to help you out here?
Traits.
Focuses or talents would be the
only Vulcan martial arts, guys. Everything else is engineering stuff, guys. What do I do?
So you could transport over there and just throw him across your shoulder.
Sure. I mean, that's wonderful. You get me over there, I'll go all Vulcan Kung Fu on him, and he'll be like, "How do you know our Kung Fu?"
So
I invoke the ancient Vulcan ritual. We must fight to the death.
That's right. And I will deliver this in Vulcan, because again, that just and I will use the right intonations and stuff to show my respect and all that kind of stuff. So here we go. Two successes plus the following roll. I'm rolling 4 dice. My complication range is 2 and no applicable focuses. Unless you give me my Vulcan martial arts from the philosophical point of view. I mean, behind Tai Chi is a whole complex idea of movements and beliefs, right?
I will tell you what, I had not spent any threat to increase your complication range, but I'm actually going to do that now.
Oh God, just because I mentioned the Vulcan martial arts.
No, it's more that your complication range, you mentioned it was already raised, and I did have an idea for a complication here, so...
can I assist?
Yes, please. And I've got you right on the chair screen, the chair readout. So anything you give me, I can incorporate.
Can I persuade you into presence science with xenoanthropology?
The GM will also accept.
Zach, you're so accepting today.
Please keep as such. Ooh.
Oh dear. You have to beat 1 success, which technically you've already done. So.
Okay, well, but I'm going to roll this anyway, because...
Oh my god.
Shit.
Oh my god.
Oh!
Wow.
Can we buy those off?
We don't have any... Well, hold on. Well, technically, we got
just
one
give threat.
momentum left
Give
over.
threat back. Give some threat back.
Okay. Hold on. I need to go into my old style radio style voice.
Oh,
Ladies and gentlemen, you won't believe what's happening here. The roll has happened, and they've succeeded with the auto critical success and the assist from Ensign Steward. They have in fact gained 3 successes, which is enough to beat the roll of a difficulty of 1, and they have in fact managed to gain back 2 points of momentum after spending 3 points. So their pool should be at a total of 4 at this point.
At 3 at
Oh
this
no,
point.
it's at 3 right now because we spent 3 to
Yeah.
get 4 dice. So
Yeah, and we
so,
gain 2.
so
So
sorry,
it'd
guys.
be
but-
up 2.
But ladies,
Oh no, you're right. You're right. Nope, you're right.
ladies and gentlemen, though, something catastrophic has happened. After spending their determination, the player behind Romanov has in fact rolled 4 zeros, and only because of the threat spend, 2 of those were 19s, which means that there are 2 critical failures on the board. Something is coming out of the capsule now. It is spraying your rails. Ah!
All right, so let's just burn out our momentum and just get rid of those 20s.
well, we can nix one of them.
And just
Yeah.
give threat to the other one.
This would be a question more for you, Brian, as you spent that. So,
Yeah, I'll concur with the group on this. We do not want this. I'm so sorry. I was like so excited to press the dice and figure I'd get a few extras.
Wow, that was a terrible roll.
You
Good
snatched
God.
Oh,
you snatched the fees from the jaws of victory.
I know, and I was about to stop myself. I don't even need to roll this, but I thought, well, if we got extra successes,
Look at those dice rolls too. Like you roll no lower than a 15.
yeah, it happens. It happens.
Oh God.
okay. So,
All those decent dice rolls to keep the ship operational, they just came back to haunt me.
all right. So the GM is taking 2 threat, and there'll be 1 point of momentum that's still left. You have spent 2 of the 2 points of momentum that you were taking in with that roll in order to buy off one of those complications, and if I am confirming the decision here, you are buying off the second one by giving the GM threat. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
That was a moment, folks.
I shouldn't have pressed the button. Don't press the button, guys.
I'll need to clip that later. Anyway,
It's a roller coaster of emotions.
yes, absolutely.
If there's any doubt we're in the Enterprise era reflecting the show, we just reflected the show.
In any case, Romanov, your words continue to. You attempt to ply the Vulcan commander with this argument here, and I'll say that because you are rolling insight here, and you technically had some successes, you've come to notice some subtleties, let's say, about Vulcan expression. The common commonly humans are under the misconception of Vulcans like getting rid of their emotions or like not having them. You know better than that. You know
Right.
that it is merely suppression, and that when you've spent enough time around them, you could discern that you can identify the slightest of tics that indicate what they are feeling at the moment.
Happy Vulcan versus sad Vulcan. Most people would be like, I don't see the difference. Yeah, but she would probably pick that up.
Yeah, it's the meme where it doesn't look like the expression has changed, but Romanov, you have the experience to note some of these subtle variances. In this particular case, you can actually discern some degree of annoyance of being lectured at or like argued by this attempt at congeniality. He doesn't particularly seem to care for you or dealing with an Earthship or really any sort of inconvenience at what he deems a security mission, apparently, but he does find the arguments around the technical loopholes. At least it seems as though he is having difficulty rationalizing precisely around them, and he is minding other implications. So after you and Stewart have made your inputs here, he pauses for a moment, looks off to the side, and then returns to meet your gaze.
Meanwhile, I'm just looking over at the science data. I've walked over by Stuart, and I'm looking down at the science data, and
Are you letting the camera follow you?
Yes,
Not let the camera follow you because I'm on
wait.
that
Let me clarify.
That's one.
Shira is just running away from the camera.
Yeah,
Let me ask
no.
a question. If the camera follows me, will it capture Shira?
Yes, 100%.
No, I'll stay there. Okay. That was the question I wanted to ask. Okay. I would know.
That was.
I just see Romanov like start to move, and then like
And then
Stuart
she
just gets up.
realizes and sits
But-
back down.
No. I just see Romanov starting to move, and then like Stuart like freaks, like flails, gets up, and just like pushes you back to the camera.
No. She starts to stand up and then sits back down
No.
to adjust her form.
The whole half of the bridge is just giving like the kill gesture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh dear. So the Vulcan commander, she says, Captain, if you wish to continue your survey of this system, then I can understand the scientific imperative, and there is indeed logic to Starfleet continuing its survey mission. It is still at cross purposes with our objectives here. However, legally, I cannot indefinitely deny you that right. In this particular case, given our significant security concerns and your ongoing survey, logic would dictate that we suspend both operations so that we might investigate this possibility and establish contact with our respective governments. I would ask that you proceed alongside the ship to exit the corridor and exit the Fomalhaut system so that we may establish a mutual subspace link and attempt to determine a course of action that would allow our concerns to be resolved. My sub-commander will coordinate with you, and we will have a decision issued within as much expediency. Until then, we will both maintain our positions outside of the system. Is that agreeable to you?
Okay, question. Don't we have a couple of did we
You cannot
establish
communicate out of the system. No.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to double check.
All you have is the emergency buoy that Shira designed in case things were to go sour.
I think this is probably the best deal we're getting. It gives the
It's
away team
probably it.
time to resolve things on the surface.
And delays whatever they're doing too.
Okay, great. This works. This was a win.
Though you can probably take your fucking time.
We're an old ship, and we had everything. Yes, that is an agreeable term. We'll have to prepare to do that exit. Obviously, we've been on a scientific survey mode. As you can see, we've been doing a lot of scanning, so we're going to have to reroute a few things, take care of some stuff inside this older vessel. But thank you, and this is an agreeable.
If you require assistance, if for whatever reason your engines are non-functional, we have the ability to use our tractor beam and guide you out of the system.
If we need that, we'll let you know. Thank you so much, and we'll be ready to go, and we'll coordinate with you shortly. And in Vulcan, I'll tell him to have a logical day. Whatever the equivalent of that.
My sub-commander will...
You wouldn't say a great day, but whatever the slang term is for that.
My sub-commander will be in touch with you shortly. Koteth out.
She'll stand up. I never want to do that again.
You're going to have to do that again. We're going alongside them.
I don't want to do it again.
You know, if we didn't already knew what they were doing, he's the most suspicious person in the history of Vulcans. He's
Yeah,
literally
I
holding
mean-
up a shield. Don't look at what we are doing here.
Guys, this is the Enterprise era Vulcan. They are all freaking suspicious.
They are all
nowadays.
shady.
I know, especially that one guy we recently met. What's Saral? Very
Yeah, yeah.
Why is everyone always slandering my characters? The most honest person you will ever find.
Okay, right. Let's Shira will move to us. You did very well. Good work, Stuart. Okay, so let's come alongside them and move out of the system. When their second in command wants to talk, I'm afraid you're gonna have to.
I know. I'll do it. I got it. I was just venting. Okay.
Yes,
I got
yeah. Try not ever to come over this side of the room.
Yeah. Well, I realized that would happen. I do maintenance on
Yeah,
these.
you caught it. You caught it. Don't worry. Yeah.
If Romanov checks below the captain's seat, Patel has stashed a couple of bags there to just breathe into.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
Now, the one thing I could do is give us an engineering problem, with a lot of radiation, and we're really slow. But then they're just going to volunteer to tow us.
They'll just tow us. Yeah. So,
They won't volunteer it. They will do it.
yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we just do it like at 3/4 impulse. We want to be safe and cautious, as after all, our ship is rather fragile.
Exactly.
And then we can bog it down in talks and stuff. If we can get a private line to Starfleet as well, just to
you do
explain
know
the situation.
you know somebody's wife who probably would help you there.
Yes. So we'll need a couple of channels. The official one with the discussion with the Vulcans, and then an unofficial one to help interfere with the official one. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. Okay, let's get underway, and hopefully this gives the captains some time.
Yep. As you say that, the Aegis begins to break orbit. Connolly fires up the impulse engines to a safe speed, and you proceed alongside the Koteth. However, Connolly
It's
reports...
so big, I think we could fly through the ring.
Probably. It
Do
is funny you should say that, because Connolly notices something else going between the rings. Sir, they've just dropped 3 shuttles, and they're
Bastards.
bound towards the planet. And I think I'm going to use 2 threat to close out that scene for now.
Yep, not a lot we can do there about that.
You'll have to figure out what you can do. In the meantime, let us go back down to the away team. Which temporarily we will have the establishing shot of the major outpost, which I'll zoom back in on. Let's see here. Sorry, folks, just not the smoothest transition. All right. Your crew has descended ever so slightly, trying to advance as furtively as possible. It has not been terribly difficult to scale down the area. You've probably been able to actually even not use spelunking gear. There are undoubtedly ladders, ramps, staircases, other things that you've been able to find within your reach, so it's not been too terribly difficult. The warehouse district that you are presently located in is very sparsely populated, and you've been able to move between very orderly grid-like alleyways in order to make your way deeper and deeper into the settlement. You're presently within just like a block or so of the cargo rail station. There is a way, based on your sensor scans, to approach more in the open. However, the most there is likelihood that you would be spotted by some of the biosigns that are out there at present, It seems, however, the freight line is partially connected to the warehouse, so you may be able to traverse that instead and use some cover to enter the vehicle. Um, I guess the question is, how would you folks like to proceed?
Stealthily.
Quietly, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I kind of spaced out for like a solid minute.
Fair enough. You're
I'm super sorry.
basically, for those of you that are on the planet, you guys like came out into a warehouse district, essentially.
Yeah.
You've managed to scale your way from the covert entry point and into the organized sense of it. You're actually you've covered enough distance that you are within a block of the warehouse that is connected to the freight line. You think, based on your sensor scans, you could either approach this place relatively in the open. There is a chance if you do that, you could be seen by the native Calamese here.
Mm-hmm.
You might have an easier time approaching going through the warehouse. There are still life signs inside, but you might be able to use boxes and such as cover. So the question is, how do you approach? Who do you want going in? Do you want to try to convince anybody to stay back? You are basically going to have to do some stealth rolls in order to get through here, and who knows?
Yeah. Add a character what kind of role would be stealthing?
That's probably in the line of a fitness and security type situation.
All right.
It does potentially mean splitting the party as well if you decide some people are staying back versus other moves, or unless you are trying to go ahead just to clear a way for them somehow.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through the warehouse, and just try to clear out a way, find a path, distract, just throw a proverbial rock in the distance to distract people, whatever I need to get a nice walkway to the freight train. So I'm scouting ahead and trying to create a path.
Copy that. I suppose I would say, at least in one exception, Saral I would grant science if he were trying to get around, because, well, chances are he's done this sort of thing before. And it is not the only skill for which he can substitute science for security. But that's up to whether Saral wants to try anything here.
I mean, Captain is probably better adept at skulking around part. Have you found on the way like some cloak or cloak-like alternative maybe, or something to make it not as obvious that we are very alien?
Well, we have a big old bird is the problem.
Yeah. Fen might not be the smartest person to take in and quite as far at this point. He could cover much of the distance himself flying, but we've established there are risks with that.
Yeah, actually, it might be a good idea if he stays back altogether. Because no matter where we go, the space he simply requires by existing is significant.
What's your suggestion, Drone? Brian? And Craig? What do you guys think?
I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other, to be honest. I don't really have any idea.
Could we lead the group if The captain was, if the colonel was up front and I was in the back.
Well, I was going to lead a path, but the problem is we're trying to figure out ways of, hiding the more obvious people in our group, like Fen, who's a big old bird with big old wings.
Could we put a cloak over him?
Do the old two at the knights in a trench coat trick.
Yeah.
There,
Keep the party with a cloak over him.
it's entirely possible you might be able to find something in the. You might be able to find something in the warehouse that would.
Yeah, I'll sneak into the warehouse and try to find something for Fen, and also just a clear path. I'll drag Sorrel with me.
I'll stay on Overwatch with the group. See if you can find a mask or like a helmet or something.
She'll nod.
So.
And we'll go in.
Yep. The two of you enter the warehouse. The rare bit of quality time with Saral and the captain. Let's see.
Honestly, sneaking around in an alien warehouse is probably quality time with the captain.
Yep. Sorry, just fixing some tokens here.
As soon as things start exploding, that's Soral's part of the evening.
Yep. So, the two of you enter the warehouse. It goes back for some length, although you're able to discern where the sounds of there are heavy machinery and sort of trams at work. But otherwise, there's extensive sets of railing that would allow you approaches from above or below. Various crates appearing, mostly I would say made out of some prefabricated materials. I'd say it probably like it might resemble some sort of plastic, although from what you've seen, it wouldn't be immediately clear what they do for plastics around here, given that they seem to have an aversion to, any petroleum analog here.
I pull out my translator and put it in my sleeve to try to cover the screen glow, but I'm gonna use my my knack for logistics to try to find some usable stuff in this stuff amongst these rows and rows of boxes.
Usable for what?
I'd say insight and I think that command or science would be appropriate. So if one of you wants the option to assist, you may do so.
I'll do command. And then I'm going to use my my value is the line between disorder and order lies in logistics.
Okay. So that'll give you, are you going for the automatic critical success?
Yes.
Very good. Just because it was too funny the last time, I am going to spend a point of threat in order to increase your complication range. Because it was funny.
Okay.
Come on.
Let's go.
What's the likelihood of that happening again?
No, shut up. Shut the fuck up. Don't you dare say those words.
I'm 2 days from retirement.
Okay.
So you have to tempt the devil, then he loses interest. Does the assist also has increased complication range?
It does.
See? That's where we...
That's 5.
Yep, you manage 5 successes. I don't think I'd given you the difficulty. I'm just going to set that to 2 here, since you are traversing an alien warehouse, which means You do, in fact, get 3 momentum off of that roll.
Woo!
I will
I mean,
deal that out. Go ahead.
I would like to deny it, but I feel like that's not the first time Thrall is skulking around the warehouse.
Well, you aren't the one on lead this time, Saral. So that's why it's more difficult. Um, but yes, you surveying through, you inspect a few crates. You find a few that you are able to peek into. There appear to be like just a sundry bits of equipment here. At least one crate appears to be filled with Captain, some sort of module that you don't recognize right away, but maybe seems vaguely familiar. Um, Others that appear to have what would appear to be bolts that, like bolts of a fair size, something that you would expect to find on maybe a small craft scaled vessel. Uh, you do eventually find some sort of tarping that appears to be concealing yet more modules that could very easily be torn to pieces and probably given to, well, more adequately, it would probably take application of a good combat knife and a couple people holding on to it, but you could probably cut through it. It is of a dull enough color that it would probably, like a deep olive brown sort of thing that would hide enough well here in the facility.
I pull out my
All-
bowie knife and start carving it. Carving a solid slice.
Like all the gizmos that tell the captain nothing. Do they mean anything to Thrall, or are they just set dressing?
Oh, you
I also record all of our discoveries as well.
yeah, Saral um, with the bit of gear that she pulled off of with the bit of gear that she pulled the tarp from, you would actually note that these appear to be regulator modules for gravitic impellers, which would be the style of maneuvering thruster most vessels use.
I mused that out loud. Like, space vehicles, not like ground vehicles, right?
Mm-hmm.
That feels
I
concerning.
pause and I scan a few more boxes. Can I spend a momentum? Do you guys mind if I spend a momentum to ask a question here, GM?
If the group doesn't mind, you may go right ahead.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Go for it.
With my knowledge of logistics and the way they sort this stuff and the amount of items I found already, can I deduce exactly what this all is? What all these supplies are set to build or prepare for?
Hmm.
Is it a military factory, a military barracks? Is this like extra parts? Is this a assembly line, like an assembly line for space dock on the ground? What?
I would say this very much lends itself to that. With everything that you're seeing here, there is a reasonable chance that someone could either maintain spare parts for very small scale craft, probably more likely shuttle size than anything else, um, in very large numbers. I would say that uh, predominantly this would be dual use technology, but this seems like it could very easily be applied to building a like building and fielding a fair number of like small patrol craft. There is not enough tech. There are some things that are missing, at least out of this batch here. There doesn't seem to be anything that is like directly. Um, there aren't any components for EPS relays or the sort of pulse emitters you would expect for particle weaponry. They also don't have any signs of any material that would be necessary for, say, warp drive or even like impulse-based fusion drives. Or
Is
fusion-based
the
impulse drives. Sorry.
Is the technology Vulcan? If not the components outright?
Some of the components may be a Vulcan manufacture, but a lot of it appears to be sort of aftermarket surplus that was purchased from other places. It is functional, but it would seem that if the Vulcans were the suppliers here, that they did not provide them like the full range of, or they aren't furnishing them directly with Vulcan technology, at least not so far as this stuff is concerned.
So is this more like a black market or like a warlord's supply stash?
That was the question I asked. Was like, is this more of a supply base, or is this a fleet yard essentially?
I would say that this basically this would be a supply base. It would make sense that the material here, and given the layout of this zone, this is more than likely spare parts or parts that may be eventually loaded up for construction. Definitely a spaceport would want to have a lot of the spare sort of things on hand. So some of this might be destined for manufacturing, depending on what Kragan's industrial base looks like. But it's otherwise, I'd basically say more likely than not, this appears to be a supply point.
Yeah, but only for small crafts, which makes me think this is not part of the war effort. This is solely for whatever planetary shenanigans they have going on.
And the fact that this is here at all is extremely concerning. This is for your people pre-Seric level technology, or this is a pre-Seric level technology culturally, and yet here all of this stuff is.
It's very concerning. Especially since this does not seem to be a rogue effort from whoever, but direct involvement of High Command.
Is there... Zach, you tell me whether I need to pop a momentum for this, but is there a part that would be in such as a play base that would absolutely need a more local, a more established country to produce, like a CPU unit or something like that? Some part that you definitely need somebody of a bigger better capabilities to establish, and you could probably root out who it belongs to.
I would go one further. Is there any part that is of Vulcan origin that they do not share under any circumstances? You wouldn't even find on the black market or something like that. Something that if a Vulcan doesn't give it to you with consent from the boss, you don't have it.
So I will. I won't force you to expend the momentum for this, but I will say that as far as you can discern, there is nothing in this particular warehouse that would suggest that. That doesn't necessarily rule out that they might not have it at a different, more secure or like well-patrolled location, but it's just that that information isn't here per se.
When is this stuff expected to be shipped? It looks like is it freshly set here? Is it been here for a while?
What does the shipping manifest say? They should all be labeled, the boxes.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you should say that because as you have whittled down good bits of the tarp into something more serviceable, Saral, you probably hear it first, and you also pick it up in fairly short order, Sharp, as you're somewhat attuned to being alert to your circumstances.
Yeah.
Your translators kick on in your ears, and you hear, "All right, go down and check the line and say about one of those impeller crates down that row there. We need to get these last couple shipments on for the next batch here. Yes, yes. Move, or the back of my hand will seem like a mercy." And you hear there are footsteps approaching near where you are.
All right.
Only hide.
I'm just. Have I managed to whittle this thing down enough? Or
You've got a fair few, you've got a fair few of them cut up to where, at the very least, you've got a cloak for Fen and probably at least a couple others. There are more tarps that you could secure, but that might take slightly more time than you need.
She'll just gesture. She'll look at Sorrel and gesture, and we'll just very quietly close the compartment and get out of there.
All right.
Like completely out, or should we?
Actually, let's crawl. That's a big question. When it comes to this large warehouse, is there an upper deck, like an office space that oversees everything, or is it more first level, ground level sort of?
There's mostly ground level. There are, like, you may notice on the map, there are some railings above that, and there are probably some more, like, office-oriented towers, like, on either end of it. You might be able to find your way back to one if you so wished. That said, there is ample cover with the boxes and crates. You could probably make your way around some of them if you were trying to hide in a particular row.
Yeah, we'll just hide, let them pass, and then go back to our group once, or just continue down to try to find a path through.
Okay. So, backing up and concealing your efforts as best as you can. You hear some light footsteps proceeding along.
I want to watch these workers. Are they? I want to see who they are. I want to record this too.
Copy that. So I'll ask actually just a quick insight or command plus science. You may roll separately, and I will award momentum for the highest one, just difficulty 1.
For what?
Basically to observe.
Observation?
Yes.
Does investigation apply as a focus?
Yes.
Yes.
So you're coming in a little bit quiet there, Felix.
Sorry, I just need to speak up. I was just mumbling.
Copy that.
Ooh, look at that.
Well, that is
Ow.
4 successes from Felix, 2 from the captain. So Saral earns 3 points of momentum back. And that actually fills up your pool.
Full.
Yep. I'll let you draw that. It's pretty obvious to you, but especially you, Saral, that these 2 figures that walk by, they do not look like they are in the best of sorts. Their clothes are a bit ragged. They seem slightly gaunt, and from what you've made out from these individuals' physiology, these are a pair of exhausted Calamese individuals. They're not looking in a terribly well state, and one of them just kind of blankly looks around. Which one did he say it was again? Hey, this one here. They lift a crate next to the one that you had been getting into. Alright, this team lift here. Yep. Alright, here we go. Come on. Ugh. They struggle to move it onto. You don't quite see it, but it sounds like they've wheeled a cart around and they just strain to move it onto there. After they get it on, they take a few breaths. Can't keep them waiting. Let's get this moving. Was it just the one? Oh, we'll need a couple more. Just come back and get those after you have the last one wheeled on. Right. And they start pushing the cart away. They've rolled down, so you've learned they're coming back in a bit, but you have some time here.
I whispered to Sorrel, I have an idea. And we need to get back to the group and get back over here before they get back.
So get everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sorry. We're gonna sneak into impeller boxes.
Now the question is, does Sorrel go out and get them, or staring the captain right in the face, does he just flip open the communicator?
I mean, you said we can do that quietly enough, right?
Yep.
That's a good point. I will take the GM suggestion for surround superiority. Because I would have forgotten as well. I full dishonesty here. I would have completely forgotten.
Look, it's been a stealth mission. I would just like, do we want to risk that? Let's just walk over there. Yeah. All right.
No, it's the worst. It's not accidentally popping open the communicator and accidentally like signaling the Aegis. Captain, is that you?
It's I forgot to set it on vibrate, and I just opened up and just did it. So it echoes throughout the entire warehouse.
Yep. Everyone.
No, yeah, just call everyone silently and probably walk towards them to make sure they find a stealthy way here.
Yep.
But make it as quick as possible.
Yep. So, quick signal to the away team. The noise was thankfully kept to a minimum, and that is despite Fenn's occasional rustling of his feathers. So, as the other six approach, Sloan will say, I see you got us a few disguises, I guess. Not the most convincing things, Captain.
Well, thankfully we won't have to. Everyone pick a box. It's gonna be a tight fit, but it'll get us on the freight.
Oh, I don't like these enclosed spaces.
Just think of it like getting back into the egg.
I'm terrified of the egg. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose if you guys would like to be in particular boxes, then I will give you the option. It'll take a slight bit of moving around of the gear, but who would like to pair with whom, box-wise?
Who's the smallest one who gets to pair with the bird?
We'd like to cozy up with the captain.
I'll cozy up with anybody.
I don't want two security people in the same box, so let's go with myself and Sloan, Patel and Dr. Matala,
Of course.
Sorrel and Mora, and then Fen and the Dr. Lambeth.
Yeah. Lambeth will grimace very slightly, but he is probably the most compact out of everyone. At least he is the thinnest by far. Um, I guess I've treated claw wounds before.
Just should have whispered. Just give him a sedative.
Right. I brought extras after last time. Um, and yeah, sure enough, Finn and Lambeth will be the first ones to rustle into the box, and Finn's like, "Oh dear, I'm not sure it quite fits. Here, let me help." And slump.
No.
Yep. So yeah, with that, each of you will pair into the boxes. For your part, there, Patel, as Natala gets in, she manages to find a way just to arrange. She'll arrange herself roughly in parallel with you. So I'd say that like you find yourself sitting next to each other. Well, I must say, I'd I'd ask if you know any games to pass the time, but I don't think really any such diversion is appropriate in these circumstances. So I guess silence is the game.
He just sort of awkwardly, especially considering what the captain asked him recently, he sort of side eyes her and says, indeed.
She'll just give you a glance and the too wide Denobulan grin. Yeah. Just the uncanny valley Denobulan grin. But yes.
As the lid of the box closes.
Yep. The last image you see before the light, all light disappears. So Mora and Saral, the two of you are getting into a box yourselves. Anything that you would want to say as the two of you get passed in here?
Guess the answer is
I
no.
think just a heavy sigh. Not that the company, but just that the entire plan, just like.
Well then, that with all the other crates secure, Colonel, you begin lifting off the last one and work.
I do look at Sorrel, sorry, and say, well, we're, as they say on Earth, flying economy.
I have no idea what that's supposed to mean.
That's okay. It's really fun, Sorrel.
Flying economy was, in the years after the Third World War, speculated to be one of the causes behind it. The teeming masses rose up. It's actually believed to be a scheme implemented by the Augments and might have predated that World War. Economy seeding as eugenics war plot. That tracks. Definitely tracks.
Those theorists.
Yeah, bastards. So, with all other crates secure, Sloan is moving aside some of the tarping in one of them in order to get inside the box. And as you're preparing to handle the lid, she says, "So, Captain, this infiltration business is a usual part of your Starfleet adventures, or are we just having a little more fun than usual?"
Normally I don't have company, especially good company. She smiles.
You know, I gotta say, I told my younger sister when she was saying that she was thinking of recruiting in a few. She was thinking of trying to apply to the academy in a few years. I don't know that I'd recommend it, but if we can do some good here, then I don't know. Sarah might get something out of this.
It's all I'm trying to do, Kara. Is just trying to do some good here. These people need our help, and it coincidentally is in the same direction that we are uncovering your great mystery. I'm sorry, I'm detracting a little bit.
Yeah. That's understandable. Frankly, I didn't expect it was going to get this much of. I was expecting to be this sidetracked when, after a drunken night with a Denobulin and an Aurelian. I guess that's them's the break sometimes.
Something you can relate to your descendants if you so choose, she says. Always a good icebreaker. You even are in capturing the idealized movie sort of life for archaeologists, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I suppose. Let's just, she says, nestling down. Let's be sure we survive to leave some signs behind of what we did.
Certainly intend to. She closed the box.
Yep. And so, one at a time, after a few minutes pass, each box is lifted off from its crate and is wheeled down. There are a few bumps along the way, a few muffled voices, and eventually the sensation again of being lifted slightly as you are transported from different parts of the warehouse. At a certain point, there's the sound of like a dull motor that each of you is going to experience, more like a rumbling of something being active. If you know, if you'd been on older ships of any sort, you might mistake it for the rumble of the deck plates or something of the sort. Uh, but something felt a little more clearly, a little more vividly, because you're without the inertial dampening to sustain it, but something that gives it a very slight rickety feel. After some time, the voices begin to die down, and the sounds of the voices peter off, but there's still the consistent rumbling. There is a loud sort of sound of sliding metal and a crash of sorts. Some things clicking into place, and then the feel of, depending on how you are seating, lurching just a little bit to one side, whatever direction the momentum of the inertia is pushing you. It might be back against your seat or maybe a little forward, depending on how your boxes were stacked and how you chose to sit down. But nonetheless, there is the feeling of movement as the train has started to move and you are being taken from the warehouse out into the broader city around you.
Yep. I would keep my hand scanner on to just measure the amount of distance we're moving and what direction. Basically, just keeping a map of where we're going. And I would also like put my translator to the very edge of, or like against the plating of the container itself to see if I can pick up anything from all these voices, just so I can record it.
Yep. Let's see if does anybody want to try anything similar in terms of like trying to listen outward or try to glean some information?
Yeah, having the scanner ready and just generally observing where we're going, if anything's happening,
Copy that.
if we're in danger.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, I will allow if you want. I'd call this insight and either science or security for anyone that wants to roll. Because of your settings, I am going to say that the difficulty on the task is going to be 3, and unless you are a box mate, you are probably not able to assist each other, but you may, of course, each spend momentum as you wish, and I will still only be awarding momentum to the highest roll.
Yep.
I will try to listen as well.
Okay, so Saral, you could have an assist here then.
What
And
was the roll again?
Security, what?
Insight would be the attribute you are using, and then you may either, for the discipline, use science or security.
Okay, and I have Sral, helping.
Do you want to take the lead?
Yeah, it's up to you. I've got 8 and 4. What do you got?
9 and 4.
Let's go.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
Oh God, I'm spending 2 momentum.
Yep, that is 1 success and 1 complication. That is 1 success from Saral as well. Then Mora, did you want to roll the assist?
Yeah. Oh wait, I rolled it as 1 die. Let me roll that as 1 die. Sorry, I disregard that.
I mean, just take the first die.
Okay, take the first die then.
Yeah.
I can't even
So-
see the roll, so I don't even know what it is.
You are fine. So I'll just take the first success there. So with a total of 2 successes, unfortunately, that isn't going to be quite enough to spot anything. But as near as you can, just the sounds are somewhat overwhelming. There's not much in the way of soundproofing here, so all of you are getting quite a bit of the the ambient rumbling, like grinding sounds of this vehicle moving on the tracks. There may be a few indistinct voices, but nothing that the translator system is able to parse out. So you are finding it exceptionally difficult to pick up any sort of distinct voice or identify anyone beyond the notion of someone being there. It's probable that if anybody is around here, that they aren't patrolling this cargo section, or not yet. And not at a close enough distance to be useful. Let's see. All of that being said, yeah, there isn't much that you're able to glean here, I'd say. Just that there are voices. As far as anyone who's looking at their scanners, though, the mapping does take you around the map, and rather, the mapping shows that you are moving from the warehouse node, and the train is starting to circulate through the broader locations of the different zones here. Let me just shift the map.
I will. Well, I was. What I meant was I was using my scanner at the very, very start to make sure that to see where we're going, how far we're moving from the warehouse to the train, so on and so forth. Just to make sure we were getting on the train, not a different one.
Oh yeah, you are on the freight line at this point, and I'd say that by this time you have actually already moved effectively 1 zone. You are arriving probably in what looks to be you're passing through a zone that would be a residential area. It doesn't appear that the train is decelerating, so you are just crossing this one for free, it seems.
I will get out. Try to get out.
Oh, getting out of the box?
Mm-hmm.
Copy that. Okay. It is a little difficult to properly unhinge the lid, but you manage to pop out. You find yourself in a darkened train car with boxes all about the station. Though, near as your sensors can tell you, the away team is in. They're all in boxes in the same car as you.
I give like 2 taps to each of the boxes I'm familiar with to make sure people are okay. Do people respond?
I don't know. Was that pre-agreed?
Just a tap to make sure.
Lambeth will chime in with a, "I'm all right."
Yep,
Mom
all good in here.
It's probably a Mako trick,
Yeah. I'll say, I'll put on my communicator and I'll say, well, we can either pop out these boxes now and try to get out from the port or see where these things go. They both risk us being revealed. Any opinions?
How secure is the whole thing?
What do you think, Colonel? Pop out now or hold till later? I say pop out now.
Patel?
He's just awkward noises come from the box. Let's definitely now, please now.
All right, everyone out, and I'll help people out.
So everybody is steadily popped out. It is a difficult process to get everyone around their impellers. And in Finn's case, he remains unconscious, whom Lambeth is trying to help around or like shift around. This is quite an unfolding job he had to do here. Feathers and all that. Wings.
I think you would have one of the most comfortable with all the feathers.
He just shrugs at you. Shrugs in GM not wanting to voice another player line.
Fair enough. Anyway, all right. From our view, like, is there any like holes within the trailer itself? Can we look outside?
Not easily, no. The scanner of the immediate area tells you that there are doors that would take you basically to the connecting cars, essentially, and there's probably some sort of window there, or some sort of path that would get you through that.
Yep.
You think of the stereotypical sort of ye old cargo train ride, or rather train rides as depicted in film. There are doors from the place. You get the idea.
Or the recordings from North Star and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will. I'll just move over toward the door and see if is there life signs on the other side. If not, we're going through.
I'm going to say there does appear to be one Calamy's life sign in the area. The life sign is, you would guess they're alive, but it seems to be at a lower level of activity.
She'll just motion for the doctors who are not soldiers over to check out the scan. Is it just a runaway, stowaway, or something else going on?
Someone sleeping?
I'd say that I'll just have Lemon say it. Right. Yeah, that seems likely enough. That level of biochemical activity. Yeah, sure.
I will gingerly grab the door handle and just give a very slow pull to see how much force is required, because I don't want to cause any noise.
Control plus security, if you please. And just because it's funny, I'm spending 3 points of threat on your task.
Why? Okay, 4
Just slams the door
complication range.
Complication
Control
range
security.
of 3.
Okay.
Not 4.
Close quarter combat strategy Gambling?
This is, I suppose it's a little bit of a gamble here, but then you are trying to be super careful, so I don't think it'd be that bad.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think a focus will work here.
All right.
Did
That
it?
two? That's two.
Yep,
Yes.
that's 2 successes. Okay. Yep. You are very gentle, getting the slightest hint of a squeak that comes up on the mic. You are able to preempt it, and then very carefully ease the door, such to where you manage to avert any major noise. And sure enough, you see what appears to be a fully armed Calamese soldier in a fairly standard sort of looking combat regalia, and with what appears to be a Vulcan particle rifle slung over his lap.
Awake, sleeping,
Sleeping.
dead.
Yeah. Eyes closed, head slumped to the side, maybe a slight bit of a snore to him.
I check my scanner. Is another life sign further down, like another cart, or is this the only cart?
There are other life signs in nearby carts, but you have enough space here with which to work.
Mora, she says, as she just creeps into the cart.
You want me to go with you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll creep into the car with you. Mako style, we'll move, stealthily.
Yep, I will fold one of the tarps, hand it over to Mora so that she can hold and cut, smother this guard, and I'll just we're just gonna go in and try to just make sure he's what. Okay, what
Do you think their physiology is roughly the same as other humans?
would you like to do the honors then?
Sounds safer than whatever that is. And points to the top.
I agree. Practically.
And I
She
would
nods.
just, kind of, not like fully sneak, like spy movie sneak, but like move carefully that he doesn't make much noise and try to nerve pinch him and hope that he has a central nervous system that's equivalent to Vulcans.
I will sneak.
Humans.
I'll sneak beside him and just to make sure I can grab him by the throat, or neck hold him if need be. But
Okay. Saral, daring and science difficulty 1, please.
Does troubleshooting count as a focus?
I don't believe that it does.
I object.
I have heard your appeal and I have decided to grant it.
You know
Spend it on time.
what? You know what? I'm giving you a threat. I'm using bold science.
Very good. The GM will accept your threat. You buy an additional die.
Yeah, you're dangerously low on threat. We can't have that.
Indeed.
Ba, 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 ba.
3 successes and a complication are on the board now.
I
but you
can
did roll.
reroll the complication, I think.
That is correct.
bold
Because of
somewhere?
bold, that allows you to re-roll a d20 when you have spent a threat to purchase the additional die. And that gives you 4 successes. So, Saral, you reach out and begin to nerve pinch here.
Since we are overshooting with the momentum massively, and unless someone objects, can I just create the advantage that he's knocked out for a plot convenient time?
yeah,
You pause for a moment to taking what information you have on the species or what you can assess and manage to get your hands just in a position to where, with the appropriate sudden application of pressure, you squeeze. His eyes bolt open, but they don't focus on you. They instead look off to the side as he seems to go rigid for a moment and then slump in a slightly different way, like going just completely limp. And
Yeah, I kind of catch him to leave him back in the seat, grab
Yep.
the phase rifle from his lap and throw that to the captain.
Yep, I will check it. And does it have a sling or no sling?
there is a custom sling on this one.
Yep, I'll just sling it on my back. And then I'll check the rest of his pockets for things.
Okay. You see what appears to be let's see. There appears to be a wrist-based communication device, something that would also likely be of Vulcan design. There is at least, let's see, there is a particle weapon, more something of a pistol tonnage. There also appears to be ballistic weaponry as well. So it seems like they have some backups here.
I'll give the particle weapon over to, well, just give it over to Mora, who can give it to the rest of the party. I give the communication device to Saral.
I was about to say, you said that is Vulcan origin, right? Would
Yes.
I be aware of like standard Vulcan frequencies? Not military ones, because probably not. Maybe one or two by coincidence, but not really. But like
Yeah.
standard Vulcan frequencies that I could just check if
Yeah,
there's
you'd
any
have a
traffic happening.
you'd have a general notion of that. I'll tell you what, if you want, give me one just reason and engineering roll to inspect the device.
Focus, computers, investigation.
Investigation would
diagnostics.
apply.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, with that, so with that roll, Saral, I'm actually going to say difficulty 1, since you've got enough of a translation record here, so you gain a point of momentum, and you hear words echoing out. All personnel stand to. Surprise visit from our honored guests. Maintain standard stations. Continue operations, and any near command site may prepare to receive our guests. Glory to General Kragan. Glory to a future for the Calamies.
I look up at the captain. I think that's considered bad news.
She just gives you a side eye.
And I think that's the point where suspenseful music would well up, and that is where we would call today's stream.
Glory to Kraken.
Yes, glory to Kraken. That's going to be the raid message.
Is this entire episode just you working up to release the Kraken?
Oh, God, no. I hope not. I sincerely hope not. But anyway, I need to check which plot contingency we are on at this point.
Who knows at this point?
Anyway, for those of you first that are joining us in the recording or the archive, thank you. I hope you enjoyed. If you ever want to catch us live, we air Star Trek Adventures Aegis 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays. So we hope that you will join us. That's 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. But we will cut off for now and see you around. Have a good one.